Hi everyone, welcome to today's video. This is a B1 level business English lesson. We're continuing our unit on cultural awareness. Today we're going to be talking about business presentations and how to structure a presentation with an introduction, transitions, and a conclusion. So this is a cultural business etiquette quiz. How much do you know about doing business in other countries? So try to answer these trivia questions. So what shouldn't you do when you are doing business in the Middle East? Make direct eye contact, sit down first in a business meeting, or eat, shake hands, or pass a document with your left hand. And what should you do if your host does not accept your gift when doing business in China? Offer it 2 more times, leave the gift on the table, or you should not give gifts at all. Take a few moments. So in the Middle East, you should not eat, shake hands, or pass a document with your left hand. And in China, if your host doesn't accept your gift, you should offer it 2 more times. Hey, your Russian colleagues have organized dinner and drinks for you. Why is it important that you don't stay too late? Nobody can leave until you do because you are the most important guest. Russian people typically go to bed early on weeknights, and restaurants in Russia close early on weeknights, but they cannot tell people to leave. Well, the actual answer is A. Nobody can leave until you do because you are the most important guest. What does it mean when British business people tap their noses? They are going to discuss something that is private. They think that something is funny. They have something that they want to say. Well, the correct answer is A. They are going to discuss something private. And if you'd like to share an interesting thing about etiquette, business etiquette in your country, feel free to put that in the comments. Alright, so now read some statements about presentations in different countries and predict which person said each statement. So in my country, the presentations usually start with the main idea, conclusion, or recommendation, and then explain the reasons to support it. In my country, presentations contain lots of detail and analysis. I think it's important to give all the background information before getting to the main point. In my country, the audience sometimes nods their heads up and down during presentations and might close their eyes when they are listening. And in my country, gestures and tone of voice are important. I think gestures are bigger and voices are louder than in other countries. So we'll take a look at the answers. So presentation starting with the main idea, conclusion, or recommendation, and then the reason to support it. That is Canada, Sophia from Canada. Lots of detail and analysis, the background information before getting to the main point. That was Finn from Germany. The audience nodding their heads up and down or closing their eyes when they're listening. That's Taro from Japan. And gestures and tone of voice would be Louisa from Colombia. And so which of these would be the most similar to presentation style in your country? Again, you can put your answer in the comments to generate some conversation. Alright, so now answer the questions below. Have you ever given a presentation? What was the topic? How many people were there? And do you feel nervous when you're presenting? Alright, so now we're going to listen to a presentation about Indian business culture and etiquette, and below is the introduction. So first try and complete the sentences with the correct transitional words, and then listen to the audio to check. So go ahead and pause the video, fill in the blanks, and then when you're ready, restart, and we'll listen to the correct answers.
Hello, everyone. My name is Kapil Kumar, and I'm the Business Development Director at TechWorks. Today, I'm going to discuss the business culture and etiquette in India. I was born and raised in India, and I worked there for 10 years before moving to Australia and joining the TechWorks team. To begin with, I'll talk about the culture and values of Indian people and the importance of trust in business relationships. Next, I'll cover the communication style in India. And finally, I'll go over some basic rules for doing business in India. My goal is to ensure that our team is prepared to do business in India next month.
All right, so now put the opening stages of a presentation in the correct order. And then think about what expressions can be used in each of these stages. For example, how could you welcome an audience? All right, so the correct order is first, welcome the audience. Next, introduce the speaker. Then introduce the topic and explain the goal of the presentation. Explain the presentation structure and begin with the first point. Alright, so now match the statements with each part of the presentation. So first let me introduce myself. My name is Kevin Brown, Head of Product at Greenline. So let's do this way to keep the screen a little bit. So that number one would go under introduce the speaker. My objective is to teach you about Indian business culture. So that would be to explain the goal. Good morning, everyone. That would be welcoming the audience. The purpose of this presentation is to prepare you for doing business in India. That would also be under explain the goal. Today I'm here to talk to you about doing business in India. That would be introduce the topic. Let me begin by explaining a bit about the geography of India. We begin with the first point. The topic of my presentation is doing business abroad. That would be introduce the topic. And then I'm Diana from RD Solutions. That's introduce the speaker. Before I start, has anyone ever been to India? sure on that one. We'll have to look and see where that one would fit. Um, I would like to start with some general information about India. Let's probably explain the presentation structure. And then let's see, I'm here today to discuss cultural business norms. That could be explain the goal. Okay, I'll start with that would be begin with the first point. Actually, that would I think would go under presentation structure. Then I will look at presentation structure, and hello and welcome to our presentation would be welcome the audience. All right, so Indian business culture and etiquette. We're going to listen to the next part of the presentation and then complete each sentence using a word below. And you may need to change the form of the words and phrases. So let's listen.
First, let's start with some basic information about Indian people. Indians really value their relationships with their families, their communities, and their business contacts. In India, it's important to build trust in a business relationship. Because of this, you should expect to spend plenty of time getting to know your business partners at meetings, dinners, and social events. Indians like to develop a personal relationship, so don't be surprised if they ask about your family. And be prepared to ask them questions about their family. I recommend writing down the details you learn, like if they have a child and the child's name. And then remember to ask about their child each time you see your business contact. This can make a big difference.
And so we didn't use get to know. Okay. All right, so there's many ways there are many ways to transition within a presentation. So match the beginning of each phrase to the ending. Let's move on to that brings me to my next point. That leads me to another important point. First, let's start with now I would like to discuss. Let's get started by talking about, and the next point I would like to make is. All right, now we're going to listen to the conclusion of the presentation and you'll complete the missing words or phrases. Here are a couple of vocabulary words. Conclude is a verb meaning to bring to an end, and conclusion is the noun form, which means the end.
To conclude, the Indian business culture and communication style is quite different from what we are used to in Australia. In order to succeed in business there, it's important to be open-minded and understand the differences. Thank you for your attention. I hope you found this presentation useful. And now I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Okay, so there are many ways to conclude a presentation. So you can choose the correct word to complete the sentences. So to conclude, let's review the main points. To sum up, in order to succeed in business abroad, it's important to understand the culture of the country where you are working. I would like to end with a summary of the main points. That brings me to the end of my talk. Any questions? Thank you for listening to my presentation. Well, I'd like to thank you all for coming, and I hope that the presentation has been interesting. So what skills does a good presenter have, and whose opinion do you agree with most and why? And again, you can put the answer to that question in the comments if you would like. So Ciro says it's important for a good presenter to know a lot about the topic they are presenting. Salita says the best presenters are confident, they speak loudly and clearly, and stand tall when they are presenting. Renata says I think a good presenter knows their audience well. And Benek says a good presenter brings positive energy to the room. They are excited about the content they are presenting. Great. Now we're going to read the text below, but first look at the vocabulary. To make or break means to decide if something will succeed or fail. Doing business internationally offers many opportunities, but it also brings challenges. A key to being successful in international business is to understand the cultural differences that exist. Something that seems small, like how you accept a business card or what you order for lunch, can make or break a business relationship. Cultures can differ in the following ways: their communication styles, their greetings, their view of hierarchy, their view of gift giving, their view of time, on time or late, their view of personal space, their collectivist or individualistic nature. So, can you think of examples of cultures that differ in each of the 7 ways? So you're giving a presentation on business cultural differences, so match each heading 1 through 7 with the correct example. So in India, it is rude to communicate negative information in a direct way. That would be B, communication styles. In Japan, it's important to bow when greeting someone. When meeting someone, that would be greetings. In Korea, people are unlikely to give negative feedback to their boss. That could be hierarchy and also communication styles. In Germany, you're expected to be early for appointments. That would be view of time. Arabs and Latin Americans like to stand close to people when they are talking, personal space. In parts of Singapore, you're expected to offer a gift to your host 3 times before they accept it, gift giving. And in the US, people try to be independent and put less value on groups, cultural values. A group of people are coming to your country for the first time to do business. So you want to prepare a presentation about your culture so that they are prepared when they arrive. Your presentation should include details about 2 or 3 of the topics below. Then, next, you're going to prepare the introduction to your presentation. And so you can use these expressions to help you. In the middle of the speech, you should use some transitional phrases in the body paragraphs, and these are some examples. And then finally, you'll write a conclusion to your speech. And that brings us to the end of today's video. Please like, subscribe, share, leave a comment, and we'll hope to see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.